Hello, everyone. I invite you to join me today for a 4-day self-sufficient hike through the forest. This is an exercise during which I will walk about 80 kilometers. Today, in this particular video, I'm tackling a new topic that I haven't seen addressed elsewhere in real situations, which is polyphasic sleep. So, to put it simply, during these 4 days, I will only sleep 2 hours per 24-hour cycle. And you'll see that it's possible for all healthy adults over specific periods and by applying rigorous methods. For this hike, I will use the technique called the 620 or Uberman, which means I will sleep 6 times 20 minutes spread throughout the day, over a 24-hour cycle. So basically 20 minutes every 4 hours. It's a proven method that helps maintain physical strength, a good mindset, and is highly effective in terms of movement and alertness. I will try, as much as possible, to prioritize walking at night, which will allow me to walk in cooler temperatures, and which will also allow me to move as discreetly as possible. As for food, it's a mix, meaning that I bring some of it with me, but I will also use resources available on site as long as it doesn't affect my progress. When traveling, it's much more difficult to feed myself with local resources, I would say, because gathering and preparing them takes time. As for my loadout, I'm deliberately starting out with a lot of equipment and a lot of weight. I have a base weight of about 16 kilos, and the full load with the video equipment can go up to 24 kilos. So it's very easy to reduce the weight of a backpack on a hike like this, when you know well all the techniques for moving around, navigation, wildlife, plants, and so on. You can easily reduce the load to 5 kilos, for example. Training with heavy loads, because I get a lot of comments about this, is simply called strengthening. The main benefit is that if you practice this type of exercise, the day you find yourself in real conditions, you'll be ready. Like during an evacuation or any kind of survival situation or any complicated situation that is close to a survival scenario. There will be a lot of stress and all sorts of unexpected problems that you'll have to deal with. It will be very discouraging and very hard to handle. In these conditions, being a little bit overtrained, as is actually done in any sport, for competitors, it will be very favorable, and you will at least manage the physical part quite easily. The second advantage is that if you are well trained, you may be able to carry equipment or food for less experienced people who may be part of your group, like children, for example. So you have to understand that I'm not looking for a technical achievement in terms of hiking or an adventure in unexplored regions. It's just an exercise during which I invite you to follow me, and I hope you'll learn something from it. In terms of weather, over these 4 days, I might have thunderstorms, high temperatures, and intermittent rain. So it's 6:46 now. It's time to get started. Once again, a stop in a natural alcove. I'm just going to take out the poncho liner to rest. I'll stay here for a little while. I'm up high. It's nice and clear. I'll take the opportunity to have a little something to eat. I'm going to start a ration and then I'll take a moment to see where I am. So the rations are pretty good, but once opened, they tend to scatter a bit in the bag if you're not careful. So I put them in a Ziploc bag afterwards so that it's a bit more organized. So the advantage is that everything you need is there. $3,600 calories in each box, so I took 2 for 4 days. With the supplements I find in the forest, there's more than enough, even with just 2 boxes. Actually, it could have been enough without any problem. So, a little nap before starting again. What I use as a pillow are hammocks from the Cambodian army. With the integrated mosquito net, it's quite practical and not too fragile. So I adopted them. 20 minutes, let's go. There you go then. I'm right on the edge of the little stream, and I have about 15 kilometers to go. In the evening, if possible, I'm going to try to walk for 3 or 4 hours. We'll see if the night is clear and it's not raining because it feels a little like a storm is coming. A green tea, some cookies. Just to get some strength. Now I need to do my 20-minute sleep cycle, so I'm going to set up really quickly. I'll just put up the net hammock. There aren't too many mosquitoes at this time, and my mosquito repellent is still working. So I'm setting up really quickly so I can rest, do my 20 minutes, and get going again right after. All right, 20 minutes. Let's go. There's a bit of cattail reed here, so it's interesting. It will go well with the fish I caught this morning. So the cattail reed, you can see it's very young. That's the beginning of the inflorescences there. It's very good at this time. So I'm going to take a little, harvest a little for breakfast. These are reeds that have the ability to clean up the soil. So you have to collect them in areas that are as natural as possible so that they're safe to eat. However, there is still quite a lot of biomass on these plants. So with 3 or 4, that's more than enough for a meal. I walked by a bamboo grove earlier. I was counting on the bamboo shoots. But at this time of year, it's a bit too late, and it wasn't edible anymore. So I fall back on cattail, but cattail is really, really good. I'm going to stop here. Because actually, I walked almost all night. Well, I walked for about 6 hours. This morning, I came across the pond. I went fishing. So I'm going to settle down a bit for the day, take it easy, and then I'll head out again in the evening. So I put this in the Ziplocs and I'll take care of it a bit later. Go with the fish. Water for cooking here and drinking water here, about 150 meters away, there's a small stream. So I filtered some of it. This one isn't filtered, but it'll serve as my water container. It's the dry bag. It's the inside that's edible. The white part inside is the most tender. At this time of year, it's already starting to get a bit woody, so the ends like this, I won't be able to use them. I only use the base of the cattail. I'm going to boil it. This part here, which is nice and white and pretty tender, can also be eaten raw, actually. I prefer to boil them. They'll be even more tender. They've been gutted and cleaned. I made myself 2 little grills so I could arrange them. So these fish here, they're black bass. They're river or lake fish, which are quite tasty, very delicate, with flesh that's still relatively firm. A few bones, though. So, cattail is interesting because in the forest, in nature, it's hard to find starch, slow sugars, and here, cattail in particular, is really full of starch. So this one, it's June, late June. It's starting to get a little woody, but the bases, as I already said, are completely edible. It's already 4 o'clock, even 4:08. So I'm starting to get a little tired. So let's not kid ourselves. With these polyphasic sleep techniques, you still end up being tired pretty often, and especially really out of sync. Here, I'm recharging the global positioning system if there's a bit of light. So now, I'm going to do my 20-minute cycle and then start again. I'll really start walking again tonight because actually, I walked quite a long time last night in the evening in 3 sessions, but I walked for about 6 hours. Back to civilization. I'm going to make myself a little coffee. With a little sugar because earlier breakfast was diet friendly. For this type of hike, I use a portable global positioning system and cross-check it with Institut Géographique national maps to get a slightly broader view, actually a much broader view. So you should know that in the forest, when I set off on a sharp bearing, if I cross the forest when it's quite dense, I'm going to cover about 5 kilometers per day. If I use the trails, the paths, I can manage about 4 kilometers per hour, sometimes a little more, but not much more. The global positioning system is essential when you really want to stay in the forest area because there's almost no way to find your bearings, at least not in a precise way. So there's every chance you'll get lost. It's pretty easy. Well, You can possibly follow a stream, but it's often hard work. You might come across ponds, stumble upon houses, or crossroads. Well, that helps a little. You can compare it with the paper map, but it's still hard to stay in the forest area using only the paper map when you don't know the terrain. The Polyphasic sleep hiking model plus camping during the day, it really allows you to find very, very discrete spots during the day to be constantly or almost constantly alert so you can react very quickly. Traveling at night also allows for optimal discretion, so it really gives the whole hike a much more stealthy character. I stopped here in particular because I saw this tree. So this is a linden tree. It's a bushy linden tree. I haven't seen many of them around here, but there's one right here. So you should know that the linden tree is in this region one of the only trees whose leaves you can eat from spring to September. So linden leaves are like salad. You can eat as much as you want. It's an exceptional tree. It's mucilaginous. In fact, when you eat it, you get a kind of mucus, which makes it extremely smooth. There are many trees whose leaves can be eaten, but generally they are only eaten in the spring. So, well, I had cattail today, so I preferred to eat the cattail. I'm still going to pick some linden leaves. Young ones, if possible. But even the leaves that are a bit older can be eaten without any problem. There is a huge amount of biomass here. If cattail wasn't available, I would have eaten this like spinach or in a salad. Well, it turns out I don't have much to go with it, but spinach can be nice. It actually makes for a vegetable dish. So, to supplement the combat rations, which are still canned food, I'm going to pick some linden leaves so I can make myself some greens. And then I'll eat them on the road. Or maybe I won't eat them. I'll see. Eating salad or eating linden leaves, actually, it's almost the same thing. If you have a linden tree at home, instead of growing salad, you can eat linden leaves. Right now it's 8:51 post meridian, and I'm about to leave at 9 o'clock. So as a result, I'm just finishing tidying up the campsite. I poured water on the fire and besides it's buried. I'll need to refill my water. So now I'm going to try to walk for 2 hours. Then I'll stop and do another 2 hours. A bit like last night. Now I need to gear up seriously because I'm going to go through some slightly wet, even swampy areas. But I'll stick to the paths as much as possible. I've got the global positioning system here. The energy bar with coffee. I'm going to take some of it. So, another nap, another 20-minute sleep cycle. At midnight, something like that. Come on. Here we go. Here, on the maps, I have a path in the forest. So the Institut Géographique National Maps and Reality. You see, sometimes there's a little difference. Well, I was counting on it. It's pretty easy to get around, but still, I'm looking for the path. Here we're in an interesting area. We're in an oak forest. And at this time of year, we should still be able to find some acorns. The problem is you have to boil them, crush them. I'm definitely not going to have time to do that on this trip because I'll have to choose. Either I walk or I cook. However, I'll still show you how to gather acorns at this time of year. Not many people know about it. I'm looking around the sprouts. The shoots from this year. You see there, that's an oak from this year. The acorn is still attached. These acorns here at this time of year, they're still edible. They're less nutritious than in October, but they have one advantage. They're already shelled. There's no skin on top anymore, so you just have to boil them, crush them, and boil them again. And there, you also have slow release sugars, you have starch. It's even often possible to collect them without killing the oak like this one. But this one is rotten. I ran my hand around it. Hop. Without pulling out the little oak, the oak shoot. I managed to find the acorn, so this one is a bit scrawny. But in a good hour of work, you make this one is rotten. You make a very nutritious meal in areas like this. All right, here they are. They're a bit withered. There, it's really, let's say this is the last limit in August. I've already picked some up in August, but after that, it's really over. So, acorns that you can eat from October to August. You still have a lot of leeway. You see, in 3 or 4 minutes, I've already collected a small part. So, as I explained in a previous video, you can also, for snacks, eat them like this too, directly. So, I got a lot of questions about protection against ticks in particular and mosquitoes. So, indeed, there are products that work very well, especially this type of mosquito repellent that contains 50% N-diethyl toluamide. These are really the best. That's what I recommend to you. You also have icaridin, which is a little less effective, but it is also effective against mosquitoes. You can find products with 50% N-diethyl toluamide at the pharmacy. You need to be clear about what you want, and you'll have protection against ticks for about 6 to 8 hours, and the same goes for mosquitoes. So these are products that we generally use in the forest, and they are not toxic. There are no studies that have proven their toxicity so far. So we use as little as possible, but we still have to use some to protect ourselves, especially from ticks. In strict polyphasic sleep, which is what I'm doing on this hike, fatigue sets in very quickly. On the other hand, the jet lag is much more significant during the first 48 hours. After that, it gets better and you get used to it. So right now, I'm totally jet lagged. Well, I'm used to it because I've worked for many years with these kinds of schedules. There, on the ground, a plum, or rather a cherry eaten by the birds. Maybe a plum? More likely a plum at this time of year, but I haven't seen any wild plum trees. It's a shame because when it's well boiled, it caramelizes a bit and it's really, really good as a dessert. When I settle down, even for a short while, for half an hour in this case, I always make sure of the safety and the peace of the place. At 25 degrees, hypothermia won't be a problem, and hyperthermia won't be an issue either. I have water, I have food supplies, so for half an hour, there's no problem. I'm on a small path and I see some Aringo. Now, Aringo looks like thistle, but it's not actually a real thistle. Although it's incorrectly called the tumble thistle, it's actually from the Apiaceae family, while thistles are from the Asteraceae family. So the tumble thistle, the Aringo, you can eat it, but only the young leaves raw or when they're not yet prickly because the leaves are actually very, very prickly. But right now at this time of year, they're already a little too developed. So I'm just going to pick to harvest a few roots. And well, it can actually be eaten raw or cooked. So I'll give myself the freedom to decide how I'll eat it. I'll harvest a little bit. You see, these ones are really nice to eat. So obviously you have to clean that. You clean it and you can eat it directly. It's very refreshing. It tastes like black radish, but it's not spicy, so it's full of salt, minerals, and there's also saponine. It's interesting for survival because it can really be eaten right there on the spot. There, I'm going to. The big ones are actually less fibrous than the small ones. So I'm going to collect them and then I'll see later when I stop. I'm going to set up a little camp here for the day. It's very pleasant. It's very airy because there are clearings around here. So there's some air. I'm going to take shelter here for the rest of the day. And then for a restart a bit later, I'm going to set up the hammock, mosquito net, and tarp, which I had planned more for rain. So cleaning up the area. So it's always work to clean up the ground, but it's essential. On one hand, for the small fire I'm gonna make. And secondly, for visibility for snakes, especially ticks, etc. So knife enthusiasts will appreciate it. It needs to be sharpened, of course. a dead tree branch. One dead turn and 2 half wrenches. Setting up the boot for the tarp. There, I'm powering it up properly. The installation of 2 poles, so quite long, at least 2 meters. The installation of the tensioners for adjusting the tarp. Putting the tarp under tension with classic Prusik knots. Here are self-locking Prusik knots. I've now started a small Dakota fire, a small pit fire. I'm gently cooking the linden leaves that I gathered, but I'm also adding the eryngium that I cleaned this morning at the stream. The Dakota fire, which produces very little smoke, is very discreet as a fire. Here are the linden leaves and the eryngium with mackerel rillettes with tomato. Enjoy your meal. The eryngium. A kind of black radish. Restart for the night walk. Right now, it's 10:20 post meridian, so the next stop is in 2 hours for a 20-minute nap, and then an additional 4-hour walking stage. I'm a little lighter. I'm close to my base weight now. I must be at 16, 17 kilos, so that's pretty good. It's an area I know there are a lot of paths. So in principle, the goal is around 3 or 4 in the morning. It's now 4:15. The hike is over with 2 or 3 hours ahead of schedule. If you enjoyed this, I'll see you in a future video on the Survival Training channel.